Today we're talking about what is a republic. The reason we're doing that is first we needed to lay the foundation of the original purpose of government, natural law versus man-made law, and of course the Western Christian paideia. The reason I'm doing the episode of what a republic is because you hear a lot of idiots out there right now saying, "Oh, democracy is at stake. Our democracy is at stake." Well, good. Because we don't live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic. And a republic is not an accident. It doesn't just happen because of people want freedom or because a flag gets raised or because a constitution gets written. A republic only works when a very specific kind of people already exist. People capable of governing themselves before they ever try to govern others. And that's something that the founders understood better than most modern Americans do, especially the elected morons in office. Left and right. When they said they were creating a republic, they weren't talking about a democracy where majority impulses rule the day. They were talking about a system designed to restrain power, channel human nature, and preserve liberty over time, not just win elections or satisfy temporary passions, or even, like I said last time, replace virtue. So let's talk about it. What is a republic? Welcome to our republic.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands that
sailors and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not
Those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be.
we pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
The idea of a republic wasn't new in 1776. It just wasn't. The founders were students of history, and they took that education seriously. They read the rise and collapse of Rome, the experiments of Greece, and the long record of governments that began with noble intentions and ended up with corruption or tyranny. They understood that pure democracies had a tendency to self-destruct. And when decisions were driven by passion, fear, envy, liberty becomes unstable. A crowd can be righteous one moment and destructive the next. History had shown that popular rule, unchecked and unfiltered, often collapsed into chaos. And chaos always invited a strong man to restore order. A tyrant. A republic was meant to slow that process down. Instead of direct rule by the masses, a republic relies on representation. Citizens choose leaders who are expected to deliberate, study, argue, and exercise judgment. Laws are debated, revised, and constrained by procedure. That friction is intentional. It exists to protect liberty from impulse. In a republic, authority begins with the people, but it does not remain in raw form. Power is delegated, limited, and divided. The people are sovereign, but they do not rule directly. They authorize a government to act on their behalf with careful, defined boundaries. And that distinction is foundational. The Constitution does not create rights. It assumes they already exist. The document's purpose is not to grant liberty, but to restrain government so liberty is not destroyed. A republic does not treat the state as the source of authority. It treats the people as the source and the government as a tool. And our politicians today need to remember that. That's why power is fragmented across branches and levels. Legislative power is separated from executive power. Federal authority is separated from state authority. No single institution is trusted to police and no single institution is trusted to police itself. The founders did not assume leaders would be virtuous forever. They assumed the opposite, which is why we have what we have now. And they designed a system that could survive these flawed men and women. This is where modern misunderstanding creeps in. Many people assume that voting is the highest expression of freedom. The founders didn't. They believed elections were necessary, but insufficient. Liberty requires character. Without moral restraint, voting becomes a contest of appetite, not judgment. I mean, you see that everywhere, right? Like I had a conversation with a family member the other day. I was like, don't vote for the person, vote for their policy. What are they going to do to preserve our Constitution? Not what are they going to put into policy because some purple-haired lefty had their feelings hurt last week. A republic assumes that citizens will restrain themselves where the law cannot. It assumes people will tell the truth even when lying is easier. Honor contracts when breaking them is profitable, and respect life and property even when they can get away with violating them. Those assumptions did not come from government. They came from faith, tradition, and moral teaching rooted in Christianity and natural law. That's why we have what we have now. We definitely aren't rooted in faith, tradition, moral teachings rooted in Christianity and natural law. It's not what we're teaching in schools right now. The founders believed that without those internal restraints, no external system could preserve freedom. The law can punish wrongdoing, but it can't create virtue. I've said that several times now. A republic only functions when most people are capable of governing themselves. And a republic is only as strong as the people who are capable of that self-government. When that capacity erodes, pressure builds for government to step in and fill the gap. More rules replace personal responsibility. More enforcement replaces moral restraint. Power centralizes and liberty collapses. This is not speculation. There's a warning grounded in history. The founders repeatedly cautioned that a republic could not survive without virtue. Not because they were idealists, but because they understood human nature. A republic does not collapse overnight. It weakens gradually as citizens trade responsibility for comfort and freedom and security. Again, we talked about the education, the Western Christian idea. The greatest threat to a republic is not invasion, it's dependency. When citizens no longer see themselves as responsible for their own conduct and look to government to manage every outcome. The American public was not designed to manufacture a new moral order. It was built to preserve the one that already existed. The founders assumed a population shaped by faith, family, and community, and a shared moral standard. Government was not meant to replace those institutions. It was meant to protect the space in which they could operate freely. Again, that's why the Constitution is limited. That's why powers are enumerated. That's why rights are protected from majority vote. The republic was built to serve something older than itself. Moral law, truth, and liberty that did not originate in Philadelphia. The founders did not believe the republic could create virtue. They believe it depended on it. The republic is not just a system for elections and institutions. That's why I'm glad Doge came in and bulldozed all this crap out of our country. It's a covenant between a people and the limits they agreed to live under, voluntary, before force is ever applied. It is a liberty ordered by law, restrained by conscience, and protected by structure. That's a republic. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. Again, another rant. I don't care if you like it or not. I'm pissed. History isn't boring. It's the story of people who knew that freedom only survives when power is restrained and when its citizens govern themselves before asking government to flip and do it for them. We live in a constitutional republic, and we need to remember that. See you next time.